Mike and I have started taking turns listening to each other for our 30-minute sessions. In this session, in my check-in, I laugh about a morning emergency that I had. And then Mike wants to write something brief and readable and interesting. He's thinking of posting it on Twitter. He's wanting to get clarity about how to sequence these 5 pieces that he sees fit together. And the subject that he wants to write about is how it came about that our civilization lives in a way that is unsustainable. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey.
Hi there. Good evening.
Yeah, and good morning to you.
Yeah. It's raining here. It just started.
We had a lot of rain over the weekend and it's been drier today.
Oh, so you're getting some relief from the rain. Yeah. So, it's your turn today, should you decide to
Yeah.
accept it.
I might fidget a bit because I'm struggling to be comfortable.
That's fine with me. I'm noticing my internet might be a bit, what do they call it? Unreliable or?
Bit wobbly.
Yeah, because I've already noticed you freeze a couple times, but I can hear you all right. So let's just
Good.
proceed.
Oh yeah, you've just frozen for me. Yeah. So one of us has got imperfect internet, or at least one of us.
Yeah, mine's been consistently giving me those kinds of messages in the last week. Unstable, that's the word they use. There it is. Now it's on my screen. So hopefully, if I freeze, I'll be making eye contact with you, and so you'll feel listened to.
So long as if you freeze, I might check if I can still hear you.
Yeah, well,
So if you can still hear
if
me.
I freeze, you can check and see if I still hear you. If yeah, that would probably be helpful for your
I got that a
brain.
bit back to front because I could check if I can. Yeah, you know
what I mean. However, yeah, because I'll be mostly quieter, hopefully.
Would you like to check in before we begin?
Sure. Thank you. Well. I had trouble sleeping last night. I didn't get to sleep till 2 a.m. And this morning I had an unanticipated emergency, which I wrote a little bit about. I'll share it with my friends when I dance with them in a couple of hours. I won't give you the details. It's a little too personal for us. But I think I was thinking after I sort of cleaned up and got sort of settled, I started talking out loud to myself, oh, this would be a good stand-up comedy routine about aging. So I started to write that and then looked at the clock and went, yeah, I don't really have time to dive into that part right now, but at least I have some humor about it. So we'll see. But otherwise, I'm very happy to be here. And it's another day. Yeah. So that's my check-in.
Welcome. So I brought an idea, something I probably want to think out loud about. I've made a few notes just in the last half hour.
Excellent.
So it's about writing something I want to write that I want to make brief and readable and with at least a hint of it being poetic, so the language is easy to read, easy to follow, and in itself is, nice to read.
Yum. So people will want to
And
read
if
it.
yeah, and if I want to do it for Twitter, it'll be short. And I've got maybe 5 things that are connected, which would each be one chunk of writing. And what I want to do at the moment is to be clear, to get some clarity about how they fit together, how they flow, what comes first.
Okay.
And it's all to do with how our civilization lives, which is to say, in a way that is not sustainable. So how we live, how we came to live this way, and the route to a different way of living. And the route that I have in mind, I think there's always an assumption that we're going to have to sacrifice something. That it might be pretty grim, but we have to do it, but it might not be very enjoyable. So I'm just thinking, how would it be joyful? So our lives would be simpler. We'd be consuming less, using less energy.
Yeah.
How would all of that be more joyful? The things that I've got is that built into our civilization is an assumption of scarcity. And if we have the opportunity, so long as we believe there's scarcity, which is frightening, I think in itself would be frightening for anybody. If I'm not sure where my next meal's coming from, food is scarce, it's frightening.
Yeah.
So a response to that is to hoard.
Right. Accumulate.
And if I hoard, it's a hoard, accumulate. Yeah, I am, in doing that, I'm creating scarcity. It's kind of unfortunate. And if I'm really good at it, I can be hoarding thousands of times more resources than I would use in a lifetime. So there are a few people in the world who are so immensely rich that they've got. I mean, money is a way of directing resources. It's not a very good way of doing it, but it's a way of doing it. So I think 1% of humans own about 44% of the wealth.
Yeah. I have a question. Could I ask now, or do you want me to wait?
Yeah,
I can wait.
No, ask away.
Okay, because I think starting with the assumption of scarcity or refuting it, it sounds like maybe there's a refutation of scarcity that you want to start with in some way.
I don't know I want to start with it, but I want it in there.
Okay, but that's a point that you want to make, is scarcity is a construct we've made up. It doesn't really.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So then I want that. My mind immediately says, well, a few people grab it all or most of it, and then there isn't enough, then that is sort of saying, well, there is scarcity. There is a limited amount that you see. So I just want to.
Yeah, I mean, the way I'm seeing it, and I would agree with Mickey that there is enough to go around, but there isn't enough to go around if a handful of people are hoarding. So yeah, there is scarcity.
So scarcity
exists because
Scarcity is manufactured by greed, in a
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
not that the earth can't provide for us. It's that some people have chosen to hoard so much that there isn't enough for everybody.
Right. Exactly. So it's that um, distribution. When distribution
Mm.
gets skewed, then the result is the percent. The result seems to be scarcity. Got it. Okay.
In
Yeah.
fact, we've created, our civilization has created scarcity. So where have we got? We've got scarcity, we've got the hoarding. So we have inevitably that lack of trust that our needs will be met.
Yeah. Fear and trust
Um,
and lack of trust. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have separation from each other and separation from the earth. So if we don't think really hard about it, it's easy to imagine that the food comes in little bags from the supermarket. And then we might easily imagine we could burn everything to the ground and there'd still be bags of food in the supermarket. We don't have that. We've mostly in our civilization lost that connection to realizing where food actually comes from.
So
We
you
don't
just
think we talk about, it's built into our language that we talk about that there's man-made and there's natural. There's the human world and there's the natural world. So there's a built-in lie that says that we are somehow separate from that. There's nature and there's humans, which is simply not the case. We're part of that system, whether we know it or not.
right. I
Which
got
is
a
why when
little
I talk about it, I prefer to use the language of talking about the other than human world. I mean, it's a bit of a mouthful, but I don't want to say the natural world to imply that being human isn't natural.
right, everything but the human beings world.
Yeah. Mm.
um, can I pause you again? Or
Yeah, go on then.
I just want to be sure because I was watching your string from um hoarding and then um lack of trust and then separation. And I wanted to know more for me to follow it, where the lack of trust, how that manifests, or why
Mm.
that's a result, or something, a little bit more there.
I think that's probably, yeah, I haven't, that's what I haven't worked through. I think that's probably an inevitable consequence of the separation. That
Ah,
if I don't have enough food, then I don't trust that my neighbors will feed me. They might, but I don't trust.
right. And don't
And if my
trust.
village doesn't have enough food, I don't trust that the neighbouring town or that the government or whoever will see that we get enough to eat.
So, so don't trust basically abundance, either from people or from nature other than human. It's
Mm.
almost like the whole universe seems untrustworthy if here we are and there's never enough for us, right? Then that, to me, that divides us because it's the haves and the have nots at that point. Like, who's gonna, do I have to fight to get my share?
Mm. And there's a good chance, yeah, at the moment that people will. So
And I'll listen now because I think, yeah.
yeah, so I want so what do I want? I want some clarity
Mm-hmm.
around where we are and how it is maintained, and some clarity around the alternative, and then how we begin to shift to it. So part of it is our connection to life, and so I need to put that. I need to add that to my notes.
Yeah, I think I just would connection to life sounds a little bit um obtuse in a way to me, just that wording. To me, I would think there's something like trusting life or trusting that we are supported by life or something, or that, you know, okay, I'll stop.
This is something I haven't that I'm not clear how I want to. Probably not clear in my mind how it is or how I would want to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
there's this is something I got from listening to Stephen Jenkinson, and I heard him a few times, and it settled very comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
The understanding that I think for most of us, usually, certainly it was the case for me, if I hear that invitation to love life, I'm hearing about that loving my life.
Mm-hmm.
And the change I got from listening to Stephen was to love life in general and to see my place in the, not always clearly, but to have some understanding of my place in the larger scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
So then it becomes altogether more important to be having some role in seeing that our descendants have somewhere to live, that they can live as well as we've lived. And I think that is probably one of the components of the transition into a sustainable way of living will be more joyful, because we will have that clearer connection to life itself.
Right. So life isn't just my personal life. It's loving almost the concept of life, and the word that
Yeah.
comes to me is appreciation. Somehow, if I can appreciate my life.
For someone who is going to listen, you're doing a lot of not listening.
I'm sorry. Okay. You're right. I'm doing a very
Um,
bad job today. Okay. So what I heard
connected with
was,
this, and
yeah.
I haven't got the, I still haven't got it clear in my mind
Mm-hmm.
what it actually means and how they connect. But Mickey talks about the flow.
Mm.
And when we're in the, so it's not just a matter of resources flowing to where they're needed. We are ourselves part of the flow. And I think that in some way connects to that the big picture of life.
Mm-hmm.
So that we're in that we are part of the flow, and the
Mm-hmm.
resources are in the flow, and they
Mm-hmm.
just go to where they're needed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and
Ah,
that.
that's the other thing I need. This is something of Mickey's that I read years ago, and has sat privilege. I don't know, I think the battery's died on my stylus. It will have to wait. There is the suggestion from Mickey, which I think fits really well, that our civilization has substituted privilege for needs in the sense of universal human needs.
Mm. Mm.
Which is perhaps why, or one of the reasons why, the people who have enormous wealth want to continue getting even more wealth.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So there's a possibility that if we attended to needs rather, well, first of all, with privilege, I think by definition, not everybody can have it.
Mm-hmm.
There will always be some people who have privilege and some people who don't. If everybody had it, it wouldn't be privilege anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And people that have some forms of privilege appear to want more and more of it. It can't be satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Needs can potentially be satisfied. We can have enough to eat. We can have enough shelter. We can be warm enough in winter and cool enough in summer.
Mm-hmm.
So needs can be attended to. Privileges can never be satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were attending to needs rather than privileges, even the people that have, at the moment have a vast privilege would actually be happier. Their lives would be more wonderful, because at the moment, in spite of their privilege, their needs aren't being attended to. So they might have plenty of food. They might have to worry about food. They have to worry about shelter. They're probably missing out on connection and companionship and belonging and all those good things.
Mm.
So this is going to be harder enough. I'm just explaining it here with you I can see this is going to be a bit more difficult than I thought.
Mm.
I'd still like to make it all, even if it was a series of 5 or 6 or 7 very short articles, like basically one paragraph. I'd like them to. I'd like them to be logically connected. I'd like to think of them
Mm-hmm.
as a system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Almost.
what comes to mind around that, which is mm, so the chance of getting 6 billion people to switch is slim, and or at least in one go.
Mm.
There's a book that I sort of, probably more of an essay than a book actually. It's probably, I've got it on my Kindle. If it was printed, it would probably be about a quarter of an inch thick. It's it was originally written by a Soviet era dissident. So he was in Czechoslovakia when it was part of the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
He was in prison for, he was imprisoned for a while for because he was a dissident. He was speaking out against the regime. But he wrote a book about how to live well, how to thrive within a totalitarian system
Right.
by creating what he calls parallel systems. If we create enough, so parallel systems are physically within the totalitarian state,
Mm-hmm.
morally separate.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are enough parallel systems, you end up with a parallel society.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So, which allows a gradual progression to an alternative system.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you have some people
So
more. Yeah.
that's how I'm seeing what I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about here. It
Mm-hmm.
becomes a parallel system. So we can't ask millions and billions of people to suddenly switch across. But if I can come up with something coherent,
Mm-hmm.
then a few people switch and we've got a parallel system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's mm-hmm.
And excuse me a moment, I just dropped something quite important on the floor, and I've got a feeling I will never see it again
Yeah. Go ahead.
because it's a tiny little bit of trim off of my Apple Pencil.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Take your time.
The Apple Pencil is one of the most idiotic designs Apple have ever come up with. For a company that prides itself on this, oh, I found it.
Oh,
For a
good.
company that prides itself on design, it's come up with a really, really shockingly poor. We're never going to. It's that tiny little metal ring. Can you just about
Oh,
make it out?
yeah. Yeah. That's tiny. Sure. That secures the nib or just part of the pencil.
Well, on the end of the pencil,
Ah.
there's one of Apple's connectors. That's how it gets
Oh,
charged. So while it's
okay.
being charged, this bit is trying to get lost,
Yeah,
and
that should,
the little bit of metal fits in the
that's,
cap. It's just trim, really. I think
that's already been handled where you have a pen cap that fits on the other end. There's so
yeah,
many designs for that. Well, yeah, I'm glad you found it.
yeah. So I have found it. So yeah, so basically, the cap is slightly damaged, and the little metal bit falls out occasionally. So what have I got? I've got loads of ideas, and it's bigger than I thought.
mhm.
It's going to take more. I'm going to have to draw. I think I need a bigger sheet of paper, basically, and I need to decide how they're connected and how I'm going to explain this, and can I make it, well, if not complete, at least coherent,
Right. You want it to,
so people,
you want it to
so I can
flow.
explain.
This
I want
flows
it to
into
flow,
that flows into that, and therefore people can follow the trail to where you're suggesting they go.
and I
Right?
want it to be easy to read and easy to understand. I want it to be highly accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's turned into a bit of a project. What I thought would be quite easy, and I'm just now looking at, oh shit.
Oh, I have a favorite
I
saying
think,
for that. It's I thought I wanted a job, but just turned out I just wanted the paycheck.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's I don't know if you've even seen that there's a brand of. Have you heard of a brand of cars called Alfa Romeo?
I've heard of them, yes.
Uh, Famously quite fun and also shockingly badly made and unreliable. And when I was looking at cars on a second-hand car dealer a couple of years ago, and he pointed me towards an Alfa Romeo, and I said, "No, I'm looking for transport, not a hobby."
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah. So
so
I
is
want to
that?
just
Yeah,
I just want to
I've got a
pause.
hobby.
You've got, yeah, lifelong hobby, it sounds like, perhaps,
Yeah,
But if you look at Mickey, that's kind of where she's at too. She's in a lifelong
yeah.
project, and that sustains her,
Mm,
keeps her um folk, keeps her moving, sort of, right? And you know, um yeah, I don't want to get lost in those weeds, but it's
mm.
it's
Yeah. So I'm thinking now, how could this be a parallel system
well, I have something I do want to
where we
contribute
are
when
now?
you're open. That might be a key, I think, for you, at least for me.
Mm.
But I know that you probably just want me to listen. Maybe I could type it to you instead
Well,
later.
I don't know. We've got 3 minutes left.
Yeah,
Can you fit it into three
I can
minutes?
fit it into almost a sentence. Thanks for asking.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Let's hear it then.
Okay. So the idea of privilege is, I forgot the term, it's in the recording, but for me, privilege requires separation. Some are privileged, some are not.
It's almost, yeah. It's kind of implicit, isn't it?
Exactly. And perhaps that's where separation,
Mm.
you know,
I'm going to draw a line connecting those two.
mhm.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you have a sustained hobby now with a,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a place to look as a pivotal something.
Yeah, we've got 2 minutes. Shall we check out?
Sure. I'm ready to be chastised for how poorly I listened this time.
We can talk about that one day, but there's no rush.
That's
Thank you for listening when you listened. It was useful to speak it out loud, even
good.
if I've now made myself a much more difficult job than I was anticipating. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for tolerating um well, and just it's for me, the constraint of 30 minutes is difficult.
Mm,
For me to even to feel that I'm contributing if I'm silent the whole time in some ways, because things are happening for me as I listen. And um so uh so I'm a bit conflicted because I want to be the listener um that serves you, that helps you in your process. Uh and yeah, it's a deep process. It's a deep project you've gotten yourself.
mm.
It wasn't, it wasn't a 30-minute subject. Something like
I
that.
may well bring it back in a couple of weeks.
Which is great. And if I think you brought this actually last time, something about wanting to do some work in this area, something with this. So um I'm I guess I hope that even that last bit that I offered is useful, despite the fact that I broke in several times and perhaps made it harder for you to follow your own train of thought.
Mm,
And
there we are.
I appreciate that you haven't decided I'm an unworthy listener.
I wouldn't say unworthy. I was reluctant.
Ah,
So if I don't see you tomorrow, I will see
mhm.
you back here next Monday.
Next Monday, it'll be my turn.
Yeah, you can talk as much as you like.
That's right.
Get half an hour. Do some deep breathing beforehand so you don't need to pause to breathe.
There you go. On your mark, get set, go.
Yeah. Go!
All right. Well, enjoy your
Uh,
evening. And thanks for
Thank you.
being
Enjoy your
here.
day.
I'll probably see
Enjoy the
you.
rain.
I will see you next week. Yeah.
Be well.
Be well.
Till then.
Till then.